the back cat, give it up. Yeah. Do the back cat.
Good evening. I'm Coulter Wonkite. I'm already into the 420, damn it.
So what are you doing?
Nothing.
Nothing? Why not?
Trying to get on this Lifestyle Radio website.
Sounds like a cool website.
Yeah, it's alright. Oh, wait, I might have it.
You might have it.
You're listening to Lifestyle Radio.
The opinions expressed during this show are those of the individual participants and do not necessarily reflect the opinions of their associated organizations or Lifestyle Radio.
You know I blame it on industry. I blame it on my own hypocrisy. Miseducation and politicians. No one's willing to step up and speak.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Pace Radio Show. We are live, and we are live here at lifestyleradio.ca. You can also catch us at Spreaker, Showcast, and TuneIn Radio. We're broadcasting live there. And for those who are in the area of Campbellford, Ontario, I am live from Canada Days in our downtown. And actually, we're going to be broadcasting the show on the outside, so when people are walking by the store, they'll hear the broadcast as well. Tonight, our guest is an author and a TV producer who many may know, and because of his reporting on cannabis issues. But before we find out more, Kim and I are going to always have our quick chat. Right, Kim?
Absolutely. How you doing tonight, my friend? I know you had some dental surgery today, so I'm so pleased that you're here.
Yes, I did have some dental surgery this morning. It was supposed to be a root canal. Instead, it ended up being an extraction.
Youch.
So, we
all feel for you.
Yeah, hopefully everything's okay tomorrow when I wake up. That's fingers crossed. So
there you go. Medicate away.
Now, I did talk to my dentist about the medication, the cannabis medication, and she asked me to, try to hold off for at least 24 hours if you can. I understand if you need to for, your pain issues and stuff, but if you can hold off for smoking for 24 hours, it will help a lot for the healing process of the tooth and help prevent a dry socket.
Yeah, tincture, edibles, lots of that. Drying, in sucking, in motion as little as possible.
Correct. Yeah, that's what she said. Don't suck. And I said, okay, I'll just take capsules.
Yeah, there you go. There's a will, there's a way, right?
Exactly. We'll get them in me. So, all right. News items for today. I'm sure they'll sound a little bit familiar to our guests. But Canada's seems that people are realizing that our licensed producers will have a problem once we go to legalization here in Canada.
Yeah, big surprise, right? I mean, they can't handle the current medicinal industry. And how are they supposed to roll out legalization nationwide? It's just absolutely ridiculous. I know currently I am registered with an LP, as everyone knows. I make no secrets about that. And I say when they're good, I say when they're bad. I've used several of them. The one I'm with right now, I got to say, it's been great for 6 months, but lately, not so much. I mean, we're down to 3 strains available. That's not sufficient. I'm sorry. What happens to medicinal patients once legalization does get rolled out? Right now, we're getting the short end of the stick. We don't have enough. What happens next?
Yeah, if they can't supply 170,000 medical patients, or approximately that many, how are they going to deal with millions?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, this whole plan, I said it from the beginning, it's set up to fail. There's no way this is going to work the way it's written. There's no way.
Well, I think they're going to have to, if there's enough outcry come legalization and there's no supply, I would, they gotta really look at that craft cannabis industry to allow them in.
Oh, absolutely, 100%. I mean, they're the ones that are right now supplying patients, legal patients that have nowhere else to turn except for dispensaries. and the dispensaries are being supplied by craft cannabis growers. They're the ones that are keeping the medicinal market afloat right now. You have to let them into the larger non-medicinal market once it becomes legal, or there's just not going to be the supply to meet the demand.
Yeah, and will those changes that they recently announced, will they even make any difference?
I don't know. I can't see it because, I mean, let's face it, we know how long it takes for Health Canada to approve anything. And they have to have all of their ducks in a row and inspections done and paperwork done, and it costs, lots of money, man, that people just don't have. It's not going to be, I don't think it's a viable solution.
Could you just imagine going to the LCBO and looking around at a bunch of empty shelves and all they got is a couple bottles of rye?
Yeah, you can have, yeah. There's no Canadian Club available. There's no, you can have this bottle of Wiser's, or you can have the Smirnoff vodka. That's what's in stock.
Yeah, exactly. And that won't fly. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. See if they open up the gates a little further before that point, that time.
Yeah.
All right, and on to the next one. I see that, when it comes to the legalization, everybody's looking for money. The provinces are looking for money. Now we're seeing the mayors are looking for some money.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, mayors are next in line with the handout. Edmonton mayor is acting chair of the mayors group, they've gotten together and they're like, well, let's not forget about the municipalities. All us mayors need money for enforcement and to get our ducks in a row in our cities too.
Yeah, I guess it depends on where you are. We're here in Ontario. We have most of our police forces are done by the OPP, so that's provincial. But there are still some local police. Municipalities are, if the municipalities are forced to do inspections or whatever through bylaw officers, so on and so forth, there's going to be some costs there as well.
Absolutely, there's going to be some cost. But once again, I come back to the fact, where is all of the money that is going to be saved on enforcement of convicting and arresting and raiding homes with cannabis? There's got to be a cost savings there that these townships, cities, and provinces are incurring. So take that savings and apply it to the new regime. I mean, it should just be a matter of swapping the numbers from one column to another.
Yeah, like I know recently the police have said that they want more money, and that was the question that was brought up. Well, you're saving a bunch of money through enforcement. There's still going to be some enforcement, but it's not going to be as wild as it was. Yeah,
there's no way that these police forces need an increase. If anything, they should be able to maintain what they've got to do in their future role in this in cannabis and cannabis growth and consumption is got to be absolutely cheaper than their present role is right now. So where do you get the need for the cost increase? I don't understand where.
Yeah. I don't know when it comes to the police end of it at all. It doesn't make sense. And the mayor ends, if there's new things going on in the municipalities that they are now getting expenses for, then that money should come down from the provincial government.
Yeah, absolutely. If everything else is being left.
Yeah, because they're going to be collecting taxes on it.
That's right. Everything is being left to the provinces. Provinces are collecting taxes. Well, then the provinces are going to have to deal with any issues with municipal mayor's offices.
Exactly. Well, I'm sure that our guest tonight will be able to tell us a little bit more about these stories.
Oh, absolutely.
At some point during the night here. So why don't we bring him in? So at this time, I'd like to welcome the very busy guest. All right. And he's an author and TV producer. So I'd like to welcome Jonathan Hiltz to the Pace Radio Show. Hello, Jonathan. How are you?
Hey, how's it going, guys? It's great to have you. We're great to be here, I mean.
It's great to have you on the show. It's always nice to be able to talk to people who are in different facets of this within the cannabis community. And as a fellow writer, it's always great to talk to a writer.
Yeah, well, it's a pleasure to be here. I have listened to the show before, and I mean, you guys cover all the right stuff as far as I'm concerned.
Good. Well, thank you very much for the kind words. Okay, Jonathan. What basically do you go for a John or Jonathan?
Call me John. That's
right,
fine.
John. Okay, because some people, they
Oh yeah,
prefer one
no,
way
I
or the other,
get that all the time.
All right. Okay. All right. Usually what we do here is I'll pass the mic over to Kim to get things going, and I'll join in along the way.
Perfect.
Right.
Sounds good. Sounds great, Al. Thanks so much for the intro as usual, and rushed your mouth, but I'll count on you for some questions in a little while, I'm sure.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, John, thanks so much for joining me on this show. I was so glad to be able to hook up with you via social media and learn more about you. I did so by posting so many of your stories that I found interesting, and I had to post on various sites that I run and I'm part of, and we wound up getting together and talking on a personal level. Your writing is astounding. Usually at this point in the show, I do like a big bio on people because it's normally people that I've done a fair amount of research on, but I got to tell you, there's not a hell of a lot out there about you on a personal level. All I really know about is your writing, and your skills are...
My plan is working.
Awesome. So why don't you start off by telling us all a little bit about yourself. Currently you write, and you're writing for marijuana.com, but I know you've done extensive writing in other magazines like Now magazine as well, and some other publications that I've posted up. Well, I've been a writer for marijuana.com for over a year now, thankfully. It's the best job I've ever had.
And before that, I was a TV producer for about 16 years. I did crime shows and anything, reality shows, anything you can think of, really. But I've been a pot advocate for years. I didn't start actually enjoying cannabis until I was about 30. I'm 42 now. And the only regret I have is I should have done it sooner. It's been the great, it's changed my life. I'm sure like you guys, I mean, I've had, various challenges with ADD and, very common things that happen to a lot of people. And so pot is one of the greatest things for me to calm down and chill out. And it allows me to just sit and write and function. And so that's, that's pretty much, I guess, what I have to say. I don't know if, what else did you want to know?
Oh, no, that's great. You know what? You're not the first writer that I've spoken to about this. I'm an aspiring writer. I just can't seem to get the time to sit down and hash it all out. My time is very scattered here and there, so I've got to dedicate the time. But everybody that I've spoken to, they say the same thing, that the proper cannabis, consuming that prior to sitting down and doing something, give you your focus.
Right. Oh yeah, it's been a game changer for me. I just was not able before this to have a quote unquote office type job because I was just always moving. And then once this happened, I was like, hey, not only do I enjoy cannabis, I actually get to write about it all day. I mean, I feel like I won the lottery.
Dream job to have, for sure, sure. Absolutely. So when you were producing, where were you employed then?
Well, I had during my producing years, I had my own production company with my sister and my brother-in-law. The last show I did before I left the industry was a big crime documentary for A&E. You guys probably remember a very horrible individual named Luca Magnotta. Yeah. So I did a big hour and a half crime documentary on him, and then it was a very tough documentary to do, very challenging, and afterwards There were a lot of reasons why I left the industry. One of them was that a lot of the support that was available for Canadian television producers would no longer existed under the Harper government, and big corporations started buying up a lot of the places that would to do anything. This isn't for me anymore. And at the same time, marijuana.com was looking for a writer, and I said, hey, at the time I had journalism experience with other magazines. I had done that on the side, and they liked my writing style. So I applied for the job, and I was fortunate enough to get it. And so then I said adios to the television industry, which, I'm not averse to doing something else in it, like maybe being involved in something in the marijuana space. But my actual producing days are over. I'm not interested. I'm in cannabis for life if I can be.
I'm surprised you didn't get PTSD just from during that movie on Luca Magnato.
Yeah, I mean,
Very
that
close.
was pretty intense.
That was one of the reasons I wanted out. It was such a dark experience. The subject matter, just having to make it and everything like that. I was just like, after it was over, I didn't, I didn't feel it anymore. So I said, you know what? I'm not feeling it anymore. I'm not making as much money as I'd like. I got 2 kids now. I got 2 little kids. So it just didn't seem like the right fit for me anymore. And then Weed Maps, who owns marijuana.com, offered me an out, and I happily took it.
Excellent. Excellent.
Yeah.
And you couldn't be happier now ever since, right?
Yeah, that's right. It's great. I just, because I feel it's not just like you guys, you're doing the radio show, and I'm sure you guys have a lot of fun doing it, but it's not just about fun. You guys are doing it because you believe in what you're doing. You believe in the cause. And so I feel like I'm part of something greater than just, writing about something. I can do the restaurant scene in Toronto, and I can write about, everyday municipality type things. But writing about marijuana, I actually feel like I'm, in my own small way, furthering the cause a little bit, just like you.
Absolutely. So inspirational. And we need people like you out here. That's for sure. Your writing abilities are off the hook. I mean, I think I must publish at least 1 article written by you on a weekly basis, minimum.
Wow. Well, I appreciate the you helping out with that. The whole point is to get eyeballs. So that's great. Thank you very much for that.
Oh, well, I'm happy to do it. Great articles, always really interesting content, things that are on the forefront of people's minds. Since you've been doing this for the last year, you said you didn't really get involved, or you didn't smoke your first joint sort of a thing until you were in your 30s. So
that's right.
You must have had an education evolution over the course of the last year.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, yes. Over the course of the last year, 100%. Before I was part of this organization, I was just, another everyday cannabis consumer. I bought it from my friend who owns a shop in Toronto, not anything to do with marijuana. I bought it out of the back of his store. And I was one of those guys that enjoyed a joint after work. But in the last year, I've learned about terpenes. I've learned about trichomes. I've learned about the differences between sativa and indica. The fact that marijuana is fat soluble when you put it in food, and the different effects that you can get when you eat it as opposed to smoke it, as opposed to vape it. I've gotten a top-level 5-star education in pot over the last year, and I know more, thankfully, now than I ever have.
Go ahead.
It also sounds like you've learned how it would help you medicinally as well, as you mentioned ADD or ADHD, and how it helps you focus.
Yes, just like Kim, I do have an LP, and I do recognize the failings of the LP system. But it has the great thing about having a prescription is I got to learn how to what works for me medicinally, and what, the type of things that are best. And that's what I'm really hoping for the industry as we finally get to legalization, which supposedly is going to happen July 2018, like with recreational. More and more people are going to start knowing not just that weed is good, but what it does for you. They're going to know the strains that they like best. Like I really think it's going to be a life changer for a lot of people out there who just don't know, they're just, it's not that they drank the Kool-Aid or they believe the reefer madness or anything like that, but they're still ignorant as to how diverse the marijuana strains are and what it can do for you. And so I'm really hoping that more people will essentially learn the gospel.
Absolutely. Strain-related things are of the utmost importance. I mean, I know a lot of people that'll say, oh, no, I don't like it. I tried it, 20 years ago when I was young and I had a bad effect. Well, who knows what you smoked? Do you have even a clue what you smoked back then? Was it an indica? Was it a sativa? Was it a hybrid? All of the aspects of cannabis are so important and strain specific. One can do wonders and another can give you nightmares.
That's exactly right. If your first experience is with like a really strong sativa, like Super Silver Haze, you better hang on to your hat. But if you're dealing with like a nice soft indica, you're going to have a better experience.
Yeah. Exactly. Strain is so important, and the education element nowadays is so important as well. The LPs are helping push that element forward, but I think it still existed prior to that on the dispensary level, but we didn't have the education element because of it's illegal. Now with LPs being legal, there's more education out there that's being handed out and accepted as acceptable. They're prescribing it, and because you can go to a government authorized dealer for this. So I think that makes the information more accepted.
Yes, absolutely. I couldn't agree more.
And you also see some of the licensed producers getting involved in research, medicinal research. Yeah.
They are. I mean, there's a lot of really great things about the licensed producers. I mean, to their defense, because I know they get a lot of flack from a lot of people, they're basically the reason that it's so hard for them is not really their fault. It's the regulations that have been put down by Health Canada on what they're allowed to do, how they're allowed to do it. I'm not saying, like, I totally understand that in some cases it's not perhaps the best thing to have a large corporation dominating an industry like this, but in different areas they've actually been beneficial, and they're doing their best under the regime that they have been given. And I'm really hoping in the future that, for lack of a better term, that Health Canada lightens up. I mean, not in terms of, I get that people want to be safe, but at the same time, we're not talking about people ingesting cyanide here. We're talking about pot, and if it was that dangerous, they wouldn't be legalizing it in the first place.
That's right. It's been used medicinally across the board for centuries upon centuries. It's only been illegal for 90 years. So we have to get over that 90-year hump.
Exactly. Pot's been smoked from, at least from my research, for over 5,000. I wrote an article the other day that it was used in China medicinally 6,000 years ago. They found evidence of it. I mean, I would argue that thousands of years of use is far more effective in knowledge than 90 years of prohibition.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Especially when the prohibition is rooted in industry. It was DuPont and the rope industry and the paper mills that stopped this, because hemp could have taken over all of their business, and cannabis got rolled in with it because it looks like hemp.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It was. It's funny you say that, because as you guys thankfully mentioned in the opening, I'm writing a book for Dundurn Press. Thankfully, I'm very excited about that. And one of the chapters is on why marijuana became illegal in Canada in the first place. And it was entirely arbitrary. There was no scientific evidence involved in the decision. It was simply hearsay that the government, people were going to different conventions, and a lot of people were trying to outlaw opium, and they were trying to outlaw opium mainly to keep the Chinese out of Canada. That was one of the main things, because it was a very racist time in our history. And so they were saying that opium was bad, and by association, even though it's completely different, they just somehow lumped cannabis into that category because cannabis has a psychoactive effect. So back then they assumed, hey, you know what? Cannabis must be the same as opium. And so before you know it, it's made illegal just basically at the snap of fingers. And then it just stayed like that on the books until, 1975, when things loosened up a little bit. And then now, thankfully, prohibition will be dead in some cases, hopefully, very dead.
Yeah, absolutely. It'd be nice to go back to the way it was pre-prohibition. This plant was grown freely. Nobody really gave a crap. You've got a cannabis or a hemp plant growing in your front lawn. People's had their homes lined with them. They made hedges out of it. Hemp, hedge running around the property.
In some countries, there was times there where you had to grow hemp in order to pay your taxes.
Yeah,
it's part of your taxes. Yeah.
Yeah, Declaration of Independence is written on it.
Oh yeah, there are countries now that are using hemp like as you guys probably know. I can't remember what it's called off the top of my head, but they're using hemp in places that have been affected by nuclear leaks to seep the chemicals out of the ground. So they grow hemp not for consuming, but they grow it because hemp is really effective at sucking toxic chemicals out of the ground and making them benign. And so they've been using it in Chernobyl and places like that.
Yeah,
and probably very shortly, if not already, over in Japan.
Yeah, they should be doing it in Japan for sure.
Yeah, I hope so.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. The entire that's what confuses me. We all understand the basis of prohibition and how it started and how it's so nonsensical. So why are we continuing that with such a prohibitive stand taken by our government with legalization?
Well, I actually, it's a good question. I think that it has to do with, you're saying, like, why is the government treating it so carefully?
Yeah, like we understand already. Everybody seems to be very aware that prohibition is nonsensical, basically. It was rooted in nonsense. There was no science behind it at all. So then why continue the stand at all?
Well, it's a good question. Some would say that it's because the government wants to save face around the world, where, if you just snap your fingers and say, sorry, we were wrong, everybody can grow what they want kind of thing. I guess there are, I think it's a combination of the fact that people we're just getting off of, how someone can, if you're told ghost stories enough, sometimes you actually think you might see something in your house. The human brain is pretty incredible. You can make people believe almost anything.
Absolutely.
So when you got people literally listening to the same false message for 9 decades about how cannabis will kill you, it will introduce you to new drugs, all of this baloney, after a while, people started believing it. So now that they're actually loosening the reins a little bit, the government is treating it, thankfully they're doing it, but they're doing it in a way where it's almost like they're walking on eggshells because they still sort of half believe that it's dangerous.
That's the part I kind of can't wrap my head around.
Meanwhile, you have places like, like I go every morning for a coffee at Starbucks. So you got Starbucks, essentially they're a drug dealer just like anybody else. They're on every street corner. Same thing with, coffee, coffee can't kill you. You got liquor stores everywhere. That can kill you. Those are drug dealers. It's really perception. That's what it comes down to.
Yeah,
I
acceptable drugs.
I agree. Yeah, I agree with you that the government's been demonizing this for the last 100 years, and it's pretty hard for them just to make a 180 change on that. And it's easier for them, I believe, to sell it to the general public by using police officers and certain restrictions and stuff like that, in order for the people who are completely against it, in order for it to make it a little more acceptable for them.
Yeah, for sure.
Right.
I mean, the people have to wrap it. It took 90 years to get us here. How many years is it going to take us to get us away from it?
Yeah, who knows?
Yeah, well, you got to look at alcohol prohibition. How long ago it ended, and we're just finally getting it in convenience stores here or in grocery stores.
I just said that last week. Exactly. Like, the fact is, I mean, I consume way more weed than I do alcohol, but I literally have to, where I live, I have to look at my watch to see if I still have time to go buy a beer, because there's only one place I can, like, there's the beer store and there's the LCBO. And if it's 9:01 on a Thursday night, I have to either go to a bar or not do without. Like, there's a point, I get trying to keep people safe, but there's a point where they're just treating people like children. And we're not stupid, like the general public is, especially with a substance that's not going to kill you. We are smart enough to know that we should be able, I should be able to drink a beer at 10 o'clock at night and be able to just go buy it at the supermarket.
Yeah. Yeah. A lot of people agree with that stance as well. I do as well, basically, but people have a problem, it seems, in Ontario with alcohol in the corner stores or at the liquor stores. It isn't an issue in other provinces. Other provinces do have that model, and it works fine, and it's normal.
Oh yeah, it's not just Canada. It's not just Ontario. I thankfully travel extensively. I spent 3 months of the year in Costa Rica, and when I'm there, it's not even, you can drink a beer in the street. You can, you see people drinking them everywhere. And it's not, society is not falling apart, out there. And the same goes for cannabis. You see people smoking joints, and you don't, those places are no less safe in certain cases than they are in Ontario. So I just don't get it.
Yeah, I guess it's all what we choose to demonize, right?
Okay,
right. Exactly.
I'm going to jump in here. It's break time. Time to pay some bills. Geez, that flew by, didn't it, eh?
It did.
Okay, tonight's bumper music is by the Killing Time Band, and the song is An Ounce of Goodness. And when we return, we'll continue our talk with our guest, Jonathan Hiltz of marijuana.com. This is the Pace Radio Show, live here at lifestyleradio.ca and .net.
You're listening to Lifestyle Radio.
Least expected. Oh, the greatest gift of all. An ounce of goodness, handed out to one and all.
Canada, the time to act is now. These days, your customers are seeking variety. Increase your earning potential by expanding your inventory with CC Nexus, Canada's largest cannabis seed wholesaler. CC Nexus stocks over 60 reputable breeders, including Canuck seeds, with a wealth of autoflower, regular, feminized, and CBD strains. All first-time customers will receive a free pack of Canuck seeds, plus a mug, t-shirt, and additional promotional materials. Add strains and increase your profit with CC Nexus, your Canadian-owned and operated wholesaler of cannabis seeds. Discreet, worldwide stealth shipping from Canada, supporting you locally. Call today, 1-844-843-7995, 1-844-843-7995, or visit us at ccnexus.global.
The following is a public service announcement from the Canadian Therapeutic Cannabis Partners Society. The Canadian Therapeutic Cannabis Partners Society is a non-profit organization dedicated to ensuring improved access to therapeutic cannabis and cannabis byproducts in Canada. With a federal government that has committed to legalizing cannabis, we feel it is our duty to ensure that the medicinal use of cannabis doesn't get lost in the process and that there are clear distinctions made between the medicinal and recreational use of cannabis. It is our mission to ensure that government regulation doesn't get in the way of a sick, disabled, or terminally ill person's right to use or produce this amazing natural health product. If you would like to get involved, you can contact us on the internet www.canadiantherapeuticCannabisPartners.com, on Facebook, CTCP Society, or search Canadian Therapeutic Cannabis Partners.
This is Al Graham of the Pace Radio Show. Are you keeping pace, as in keeping people advocating cannabis education? If you're not, and you're a cannabis consumer, then why not? Others are working hard every day to help educate people about cannabis so you can enjoy your daily 420. Get involved and speak out. Be loud and proud so that you can keep pace. Tune into the Pace Radio Show every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time to hear about people advocating cannabis education here on lifestyleradio.ca.
Growing your own vegetables, flowers, or even medicinal plants can be a challenge without the right equipment and proper know-how. At BMA Hydroponics, not only are they your urban horticultural experts and suppliers, but their staff holds the customer's needs paramount to making a sale. Family-owned with decades of experience and knowledge, they offer free advice in person, by phone, or email. BMA Hydroponics wants to ensure you have the advice you need, which is why you'll find tips and tricks on different ways to grow, like wick, ebb and flow, drip, or aeroponic system, as well as other helpful links at bmahydroponics.com. If you can't find what you're looking for, just let them know, and they'll do everything they can to get what you're looking for. At BMA Hydroponics, each staff member also possesses a federal exemptee MMAR license, making their strong suit empathy, experience, and dedication to their customers. Because when you know how to grow, you'll have results that make you proud. BMA Hydroponics in Belleville, Ontario. Visit bmahydroponics.com.
BMA offers cannabinoid testing, so if you want to prove you've got good medicine, head to BMA Hydroponics and prove it.
When your problems seem 10 feet tall, and there's no one you can call, you can't find your words to say.
Hey, we're back, and we are the Pace Radio Show, and we are live here at lifestyleradio.ca. Plus, we're live here at Canada Days in Campbellford. Walk by the store, and you'll see me sitting in the front window, and we have the speaker out front so you can listen to the broadcast. And if you miss any of those broadcasts, you can catch the podcast later on Mixcloud, YouTube, iTunes, and if you're in the U.S., you can pick it up on iHeartRadio as well. Also, don't forget to tune in to the other programming here on the network. You got Coffee and Cannabis with Tamarawana, which airs Wednesday mornings at 11 p.m. or 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, as well as the 420 radio show that airs Friday nights at 7. So tune into those programs as well. And as well as Tuesday, Michael, he comes on with Coverage Radio, which has all kinds of different kinds of music in it, I would say. Tonight on our program, we're joined by our guest, John Hiltz of marijuana.com, and my joint host, Kim Cooper. Kim, before the commercial break, we were talking about, of all things, liquor in liquor stores.
Yeah.
Not liquor stores, but convenience stores.
Yeah.
You know, like it took 100 years almost for us here in Ontario to get that. Let's hope we don't wait 100 years to be able to get cannabis in much friendlier locations.
Absolutely, that's for sure. I would, up here in Northern Ontario, small towns, we've generally had alcohol available in the corner stores for quite a while, but that's only because the corner store is the gas station and the grocery store and the liquor store and the post office. So it's kind of all right there, right?
That's right.
But they have to close it off. There's a gate that goes over and it's only accessible certain hours of the day and that kind of thing. So the store will be open, but you still can't buy any days.
Yeah. Well, let's hope down the road we'll be able to pick up some cannabis at the local vapor lounge.
That would be awesome.
All right.
That would be fantastic.
I'll let you go at Jonathan again with some more questions, and as usual, I always pipe in when I get the urge.
Yeah. Oh, I wanted to come back and talk to John, since he's, you've had this sort of, grand course of education and stuff, and you're extremely well informed on the issues with your research, with all the articles that you've written. I kind of wanted to talk to you a bit about legalization and the Liberals' plan. Let's dive into that. It's on the forefront of everybody's mind. It's being pushed through the House of Commons at a rapid pace. It wants to hit the floor running. They're limiting the time that speakers can talk about this and debate it now in the House. They want to push this thing through. What are your thoughts on their plan as a whole?
Well, I applaud them for really trying to not drag their feet on the issue. On one hand, you have Trudeau really making an effort to get this going and make sure that nobody stops him up. I mean, he also has a majority government, so there's really nothing they can do in regards to debate other than just yell and scream. But in the end, he's going to do what he wants. My big criticism of Trudeau from day one was decriminalization. I think that he really dropped the ball when it came to that. He should have decriminalized. There are people from all sides, people in his party, people in the opposing party. There's just a chorus of, the other day, the chief medical officer for Toronto also came out and said that he never did that. And there are theories as to why he never did that. But at the end of the day, that was his big mistake. But that aside, you have legalization coming up by July of 2018 if they can get it going. My big interest actually is the UN drug treaties, which nobody has really addressed. Whether people know it or not, I don't know if you know. You probably don't know about this, right, Kim?
Yeah, I do. I know where you're going to go. Go ahead.
Yeah, so they have the drug treaties that we signed 3 of them in the last 60 years, and these were drug treaties that were signed by all the UN countries, which essentially put a ban on cultivating cannabis, on anything to do with pot and other drugs. So the government of Canada has to, if they're going to withdraw from these treaties, they're going to have to put an official note in with the UN before July 1st. So if their choice is to withdraw, they have to tell the UN before July 1st. If they don't, then if they're asking quote-unquote permission, they're going to have to wait a whole other year. And I don't think Trudeau's ready to do that. So nobody knows what their stance is on that. But that could essentially be a big problem in the way of legalization. So I don't know if anyone's heard any rumors about that, but the last I've heard, nobody knows what the government's going to do.
Yeah, no, they're not talking about it at all. But my question is about that. Aren't we already in violation of said treaty with our medicinal program? We're already growing it.
Yeah.
We're already
there's
exporting it. We're exporting it.
Yeah,
Exactly. There's several LPs that are exporting right now to other countries. We're already in violation.
Oh, yeah. It's a very... as we've talked about in this program, it's an issue of perception. Some people believe, yes, exactly, that we're in violation. The treaties, there is in one of the articles I wrote, I found out that the treaties do allow for medicinal use if it has found that cannabis has some merit in that area. So they're using what is essentially a loophole, but there are people that would read it differently and say, no, yeah, you are in violation. The United States is in big violation of the UN. They were practically, these treaties were practically drafted by the U.S.
Yeah, they're the ones that push them
United
for
States
everybody to
has-
sign, and they have individual states. Over half of their country is in violation of said treaties.
Yeah, and the way they're getting away with it is incredible because the federal government, the way that they've gotten around it is the federal government of the U.S., as you know, still declares marijuana as a completely banned drug. It's Schedule I, all of that baloney. But individual states have legalized. So the federal U.S. government is technically still in compliance with the treaties, but half the country isn't. So one could argue that they are in violation, but the U.S. says, no, we're not in violation. So it's a whole
state, the individual,
cluster F.
The individual states didn't sign that treaty.
Our
No, that's
family
right.
didn't do it. Tommy did. He'll be punished.
John,
That's right.
John, you mentioned the July 1st for Canada's got to notify the UN. You're talking about this July 1st, correct? So they have to give them a year's notice?
Yeah, they have. From what I've been told, I did a whole article on it where I interviewed a very intelligent law professor from the University of Ottawa who is really on when it comes to this. His name is Steve Hoffman, and he is really on this. And he basically explained to me that they have a date of July 1st of 2017 where they have to tell the UN if they are officially withdrawing from the treaty. And so far, there has been nothing to that effect. And as you know, July 1st is in, 3.5 weeks? So if they don't, either Canada is just going to violate the treaties, which would be a very bad thing to do. That would be, it would be probably the worst thing Canada can do. Or they have to find some other way around it. But if they violate the treaties, the biggest problem is that there are countries that have signed treaties. It will basically make it look like, even though we're only talking about cannabis, there are other treaties as well, like treaties against human trafficking, treaties against torture, all of these different things that are really bad. And so the countries, if Canada decides they want to pick and choose what treaties they're a part of, and then they say, we've decided we're not going to be a part of this one, then these guys are going to say, then we don't have to be a part of this slavery treaty, and we don't have to be a part of this torture treaty because you guys pulled out, and it'll create a precedent. So, so we can't do that.
Yeah, you can't say, well, I'm signing it, because then your word is no good in the House anymore. And other people are going to say, well, treaties are meaningless, so what's the point? And then the whole system
become a hypocrite.
Down. Then your whole system breaks down, and we're all screwed.
Exactly.
For sure. Treaties are a big deal.
Nobody knows what Trudeau's going to do on this.
And they have to, you would think they would have to do some sort of a press release or a notification to the public on making such a grand statement to the UN. There would have to be some foreplay with that, wouldn't there?
Yeah, I would think so. Someone is going to find out soon. If July 1st passes and nobody knows what's going on, then they're clearly not asking permission. The only other way that, as far as from my limited knowledge of this area, the only other way that I think that they could do it is if they changed Canada's constitution. That's a way out of it. But no one's going to, realistically, no one's going to change the constitution for pot, as much as we would like them to.
It's not going to happen, not this decade.
Right. Yeah. So, exactly. Like, that's all we need is to open up, that'll be a debate. That'll be the debate of debates. So your guess is as good as mine. I've tried to ask the government about this, and none of them are either they're not able to answer me, or they simply don't want to.
Right. So if they don't have this, then there's no way legalization happens in 12 months on the Liberal deadline.
Unless the Liberals just want to simply break the treaty. The Liberals can just say, screw it, we're making marijuana legal, we don't care what the other countries say, which would be against the advice of many. So they can, we can, essentially as a sovereign country, we can do what we want.
Unlikely.
Yeah, exactly.
They could, but it's unlikely, right? Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
exactly. If we value
that shines
our
a big
place in the
light.
UN,
That
we
shines a
can't
big
just sort
light
of do
on
that.
on the whole 1 year scope that they're riding on this 1 year scope. They say they're committed to it. So that kind of shines a really big light on it. Are they committed to it if they know they can't do it in 1 year if they don't do this UN thing?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, I think that they're, you have all the people in the Trudeau government. They seemingly are dedicated to, doing it by July 1st, 2018. I don't know if they're being super optimistic for the purposes of speeding everything along, but in truth, they don't believe it's going to happen by that date. I don't know. Everyone from Jody Wilson-Raybould to Bill Blair to, Trudeau himself has said this is going to happen and brace for it. You guys touched on the supply and demand article I wrote just recently, and there's pretty much a guarantee that supply won't even come close to demand the day pot is legal in Canada. So Trudeau's efforts to stamp out the black market. I mean, he never said he'd do it overnight, but I guarantee you that people are going to be turning to the licensed community come legalization day because there just won't be enough pot to go around.
That's right. You can't do it without dispensaries. Craft cannabis has to be involved.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Now, here's another twist to all this legalization thing. They're talking about being legalized by, July 1st, 2018. And the provinces are saying, well, we got to wait until we get all the information from the federal government. And, what happens if they don't actually get all that information until July 1st? So they're going to require more time
to roll out.
Are you talking about
to roll out? They're going to say, yeah, it's legal federally, but you can't get it provincially anywhere until we've done our paperwork of it all.
Right. In that case, what the government has said, they've put something in place called the federal stopgap. So if provinces need more time or they're not ready or whatever the reason is where people can't get the pot in the province they happen to be in, they will still be allowed to order marijuana online and it will be sent to them in the mail. That'll be recreational, adult use, whatever you want to call it. So if you live in Saskatchewan and Saskatchewan hasn't finished yet, then people from Saskatchewan can go online and they can order pot and it will be sent to them from a licensed producer, whoever that may be. And then that'll happen until Saskatchewan, for example, gets their stuff together.
So we're going to have non-patients signing up with LPs.
Say that again, sorry?
We're going to have non-patients signing up with LPs.
Well, yes. Essentially, the LPs are going to be the suppliers of recreational cannabis as well, which is why it's mind-blowing to think that they're going to be able to keep up with demand. Like you were mentioning before, that Health Canada changed some regulations. They started streamlining. They're fast-tracking the, I believe, 450 applications that currently exist for people to become licensed producers. So they better do something quick.
I think it's going to take a little more than streamlining.
Yeah. It will take a little more if you want people to stop buying from non-licensed people, which is why, we talk about the dispensaries and the fact that they've spent so much money, doing the raids and doing all these, the bylaw officers and all this ridiculousness to shut people down. I live in Toronto, so I've been there for all the chaos. And it's just insane, the amount of money and the fact that, like, the justice system is a revolving door. These people are in and out. They're wasting taxpayer dollars. And in the end, it's not like in the end, we don't have enough pot anyway to go around. Like, I was talking to a bunch of police officers I know. And I said to them, guys, I used to buy my pot out of the back of someone's store, and I would buy whatever they had available. It didn't matter. He got it from some guy, and I bought it, and he had one strain, and we didn't know what it was, and I just bought it from him, and I got it in a little baggie, and I went home, and I smoked it, and that was it. And I said, I would go to these dispensaries, and they have rubber gloves on and they're handling the product and they have different choices and they're clean and sanitary. And I said, yeah, I get that these guys are illegal, but is it not at least a step forward than because Canadians are going to buy pot regardless. So do I want to buy it in the back of some guy's car that I barely know, or do I want to get it from a storefront on Bloor Street? Well, I'll choose the storefront.
Yeah, every time. Every single time. Absolutely.
Every time.
Absolutely.
You wouldn't buy, if someone on the street said, hey man, you want a muffin? You wouldn't get a muffin from the guy. You'd go to the bakery. You wouldn't do it. So it's as far as I'm concerned, I understand that pot is a drug, a soft drug, but give me a break. You wouldn't buy a cup of coffee from a guy on the street that you didn't know. You'd go to Timmy's.
No, that's right. That's right. And there's no reason that we can't do the same for cannabis. That's absolutely. Yeah. Well, we've got a few minutes left before we go to break. What are your thoughts on mandatory minimums and the sentences for passing a joint to a minor?
Oh, well, I'm a big, that's a tough decision. Okay, well, you're saying like if you give a joint to a minor and then you get caught and you can get like 14 years or whatever the number is, something like that.
Yeah, 14 years.
I disagree with any law.
Well, I'm just going to put this out there, okay? Carla Homolka got out in 10.
Right.
Right.
Say it again?
After taking people's lives.
But if I supply a 17-year-old non-patient that I thought was 18 with a quarter ounce of some medication or some infused candy or something that I've just made, then I could get 14 years.
Yeah, it's insane. And and what about the worst? Like, say you have an 18-year-old kid who buys a joint because he'll be able to buy that. Okay, so you get an 18-year-old kid who buys a joint and he sells it or doesn't sell it. He gives it to his 16-year-old brother to try, for example.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I don't advocate that behavior, but at the same time, if the 16-year-old tries it, what are you going to do? Are you going to give the 18-year-old brother 10 years in jail, 12 years in jail for sharing a joint with his brother? I mean, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I don't understand how they came up with these numbers.
Something in place that's like, I don't know what the solution is, but I know that giving people threatening people with over a decade in jail for sharing a joint with a minor is taking it a little too far. But if you ask me what the answer is, I don't know.
Yeah, no, I get it. It's mind-boggling that they would do this. In the age of looking at legalization, how can you possibly add in a provision that allows for a jail penalty for a plant that's legal?
Right. And that's what we're talking about at the end of the day. You need a sophisticated setup to make cocaine. Not that I'm putting weed in the same category, but you need a sophisticated setup to cook meth. If you're talking illegal drugs, you need to do a whole deal to make it, to get it on the street, to do all that. For weed, it's a plant. You can grow it just like you grow tomatoes. So how can you give somebody over 10 years in jail for something that you can just grow in your garden? And here's another thing, actually, an interesting point on that is when it comes to, they're treating this like, the minors, everybody, you got to keep it away from kids. But then within the same breath, they say that the average household is allowed to grow 4 plants 100 centimeters tall, I believe, whatever it is. So these kids are going to know that their parents or their brothers or sisters are growing marijuana. But what are you supposed to do? How are you supposed to keep them away from it? It's just completely unrealistic.
Yeah.
How do people who brew their own beer and make their own wine, how do they keep that away from minors?
How do you keep a bottle of Flintstone vitamins that look and taste like candy away from your kid? Because a bottle of those will kill them.
Right, exactly. All you can do is be the best parent you possibly can be, and that's it. Because I'd be lying if I told you that when I was 12 years old, I didn't sneak into my dad's liquor cabinet to try something. I didn't like it, but I had access to it, and my dad didn't get 10 years in jail.
That's right. Every parent on the planet would be in prison.
Exactly. 100%.
Exactly.
It's ridiculous. It's the same thing. Like, I'm sure that everybody I speak to would agree to me that cigarettes are way more harmful than marijuana ever was. And, if I wanted to sneak a cigarette when I was a kid, all I had to do was go into the back of my dad's pants, and they would be there.
Yeah. Well, when we're kids, and young adults and stuff, where there's a will, there's a way. That's what it comes down to. If you want to do it, man, you're going to do it. That's all there is to it. You're going to figure it out,
That's right.
So, I mean, why not go with education instead?
That's right.
Let them know what it is. And you know what? If it's grown everywhere, if it's commonplace, if it's not taboo, then they won't gravitate towards it as something to do that they're not supposed to.
I couldn't agree more. It's exactly right. The place that is going to stop everything. It's simply impossible to fully stop minors from getting their hands on things that should only be for adults. We don't live in a world like that. All you can do is set age minimums, which that's fine. I get it, and do that, and you do your best, and that's it. And to believe that you can somehow make these strict rules and that will scare people into making sure that minors don't have weed on them, you're kidding yourself, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
You don't live in the real world.
Yeah. Well, we kind of come full circle, to our beginning conversation there when you were talking about Costa Rica, how alcohol is commonplace. So, kids aren't going out and saying, "Oh, let's go get some booze and get drunk," because that's not what they want to do. It's not something that they want to do because it's every day, it's all day, it's around.
It's not taboo.
Exactly.
So that's right. So if you put cannabis in the same light, it's no longer taboo either, and then it's no longer an issue about what about the children. Children don't give a shit.
Yeah. Hey, I'm breaking the law. I'm breaking the law.
Yeah, well, exactly. Children don't know the difference. I mean, the kids, I've been fortunate enough to go to France, and kids drink wine at the dinner table there, and and it's just one of those common. I'm not saying that like a 10-year-old should smoke a joint with his dad, but at the same time, when you're, it's just not.
If the kid sees it.
If you're treating it this way, you're making it look bad, and it's not bad.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Okay, commercial time again. Time for another break.
One more break.
Okay, and for our listeners, they're going to hear a little bit more of An Ounce of Goodness by the Clementine Band. And then we get back, Kim and I will continue our discussion with John here from marijuana.com. And you're listening to the Pace Radio Show here live at lifestyleradio.ca. You're listening to the Pace Radio Show here live at Lifestyle Radio.
You're listening to Lifestyle Radio.
We're good friends till the bitter end. 'Cause I'll never bend. We're bound by our sins. Promise you this, my old friend.
Growing your own vegetables, flowers, or even medicinal plants can be a challenge without the right equipment and proper know-how. At BMA Hydroponics, not only are they your urban horticultural experts and suppliers, but their staff holds the customer's needs paramount to making a sale. Family-owned with decades of experience and knowledge, they offer free advice in person, by phone, or email. BMA Hydroponics wants to ensure you have the advice you need, which is why you'll find tips and tricks on different ways to grow, like wick, ebb and flow, drip, or aeroponic system, as well as other helpful links at bmahydroponics.com. If you can't find what you're looking for, just let them know, and they'll do everything they can to get what you're looking for. At BMA Hydroponics, each staff member also possesses a federal exemptee MMAR license, making their strong suit empathy, experience, and dedication to their customers. Because when you know how to grow, you'll have results that make you proud. BMA Hydroponics in Belleville, Ontario. Visit bmahydroponics.com.
BMA offers cannabinoid testing, so if you want to prove you've got good medicine, head to BMA Hydroponics and prove it.
The National Task Force on Medicinal Cannabis is a group of not-for-profit organizations dedicated to influencing government policy with factual evidence. Our mission is to ensure that a constitutional medical program is developed that will address the concerns of all Canadians that require therapeutic cannabis. The task force is looking for dedicated people who are willing to contribute to our cause. We have formed this task force to foster a unified approach and focus on lobbying the federal government and Health Canada. We represent the combined expertise of thousands of patients with more than a decade of experience. As a task force participant, you, your business, or your group will have an opportunity to show that you care and offer your unique skills to promote the cause. If you would like to get involved, go to medcanataskforce.org. That's medcanataskforce.org and use the Contact Us link to get started. Help us help you.
Tune into the Pace Radio Show and catch Kim Cooper, Debbie Stoll-Skiffen, or Alison Merlin, along with myself, Al Graham, as we talk to Canadian and international cannabis advocates who are working hard to help patients and to end cannabis prohibition. Catch us live every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time here at lifestyleradio.ca.
Canada, the time to act is now. These days, your customers are seeking variety. Increase your earning potential by expanding your inventory with CC Nexus, Canada's largest cannabis seed wholesaler. CC Nexus stocks over 60 reputable breeders, including Canuck seeds, with a wealth of autoflower, regular, feminized, and CBD strains. All first-time customers will receive a free pack of Canuck seeds, plus a mug, t-shirt, and additional promotional materials. Add strains and increase your profit with CC Nexus, your Canadian-owned and operated wholesaler of cannabis seeds. Discreet, worldwide stealth shipping from Canada, supporting you locally. Call today, 1-844-843-7995, 1-844-843-7995, or visit us at ccnexus.global.
Let your love light glow. Just reach out, take that full step and kick down the door. Just let it all go.
Hey, welcome back, and thanks for tuning in to the Pace Radio Show. As always, we're being broadcasted live here every Wednesday at 8 p.m. on lifestyleradio.ca, and I'm right here at Canada's in Campbellford. Front window. I'm watching the cars go by. I've been sitting here. I had like 5 people standing in the front window looking in at me as we're eating ice cream. You know, like it's teasing. It's teasing me. That's what it's doing for sure. I can tell you that because I can't eat any ice cream. Tonight we feature the music of the Ontario-based band, the Killing Time Band, and the song "An Ounce of Goodness." A song about the importance of an ounce of cannabis for a patient, and so much more. If you like the Killing Time Band and some of that music, check out the website, killingtimeband.com. Today on the show, we've got Jonathan Hiltz of marijuana.com and my joint host, Kim Cooper. Okay, John and Kim, we're into the last segment here. I know we're going to switch topics, but I have one question for you. What's going on up there on Parliament Hill when the Conservatives are talking about cannabis and toasters? Are they saying that minors are going to be putting their cannabis into toasters and smoking it?
Who are you asking me?
Both of you. Either one of you.
I never heard of it.
That's new. I actually hadn't heard that. Did they actually say that?
Yes, yeah. That's part of the stuff that they're getting up in there. You're spreading as fear is that minors will start using toasters to consume their cannabis.
They're going to use it in a toaster. How the hell would you do that?
I haven't got a clue.
I mean, the weirdest thing I heard from the Conservatives this week was in the debates. I hadn't heard about the toaster thing, but I wouldn't put it past them. But the one thing I heard was they were afraid that that if cannabis was available, that minors would be essentially drug mules, where they would take cannabis to schools and then sell it to their friends, essentially. And they were afraid that that was going to happen.
Yeah, and minors will be taking their 5 grams and running around and selling it at large amounts where they don't have to worry about getting arrested.
Right, exactly. So essentially minors will be the new dispensary owners, which is amazing because at the end of the day, again, like hopefully cannabis is going to be so widespread that minors, if it did happen, they could bring it to school, and the other kids will say, well, no, we can get our hands on it. Like it's not. And if that was actually the case, you got to ask yourself, what would someone do if a kid tried to sell liquor at school? Well, they would get in trouble, right? They would go to the principal's office. They would get expelled or suspended. So just do that. Like, why even bring it up in Parliament? Like, this is what our money is paying for.
Correct.
Where's the money going?
Yeah, exactly. Where is it going? Okay, now I just thought I'd get your opinions on that.
That's a new one on me. I'm definitely going to be looking that up. I'm going to be looking that up. Yeah.
Look it up. Okay. Now, overall, with Canada here, we're talking about legalization. We talked about what's going on in the U.S. What about what you're seeing in other places around the world?
Yeah, Canada isn't the first place to come up with this legalization plan. What's your education been globally?
Well, that's been actually the greatest part of my job. I was hired to cover Canada, but in the course of a year, the cannabis reform around the world has gotten so rampant that I have been assigned stories in, anywhere. You're talking South Africa, Germany, England, France, Australia. Everywhere that you can think of, I mean, obviously barring certain regions, there is some kind of cannabis reform going on, whether medically or they're talking recreational. Usually if a country is going to adopt a medical marijuana system, which seems to be the common way for people to dip their toe in the water, so to speak, usually what happens is they first legalize CBD. They'll have patients, for example, like kids who are suffering from seizures or people with multiple sclerosis. And so they will lobby the governments of their countries and say, look, we need this medicine like they have it elsewhere. And because thankfully Canada and other countries have legalized medical marijuana, they can cite those as examples. So governments start by doing that, and then it eventually goes into medical marijuana. But even recreational, like you have tomorrow is the big election in the United Kingdom, and the Liberal Democrats, one of the parties, are not going to win, unfortunately, but they ran on a campaign promise of all-out full adult use legalization for the United Kingdom. And if that happened, it would break Europe wide open.
I was reading about that. It's quite exciting, but like you say, it's kind of like us trying to campaign for the Greens, right?
Yeah, well, unfortunately, the Liberal Democrats are not going to even come close, but hell, I would vote for them. I mean, and then, you have places like Italy right now has a bill talking about all-out legalization, and they now have medical marijuana, which, interestingly enough, is grown by the Italian army. And then Germany, in Berlin, they now have a pilot project in certain areas of Berlin where you can buy, they've set up dispensaries, so you can buy cannabis from these dispensaries, and they're basically monitoring to see how it goes. I mean, where
exciting times in Germany for sure.
Yeah, exactly. And then then you have Australia and New Zealand. I mean, it's just endless what's happening out there, and it's really exciting for me to see.
Like we recently had John Regatos from Skunk Magazine on the program, and he was talking about South Africa, and that surprised the hell out of me. I hadn't heard anything about that. I always look at that as a location that would be one of the last places to be legalized.
Yeah.
But
South Africa, I was shocked too, actually. I mean, they're still debating it. It's taken a long, long time. I mean, they have medical marijuana from what I remember, but they were talking about, they passed a bill, I think, a little while ago where it was a court case where they created a precedent where people could smoke at home and not be bothered. And I think the government is appealing that decision, but they're moving forward on that. It's a whole new world out there. I mean, you still have like the Middle Eastern countries, which are Obviously, it's a huge no-no out there, except for Israel, of course, which recently, they're another one. They just recently fully decriminalized. Not fully, but mostly decriminalized.
Yeah, Jamaica, there's another place.
Oh, yeah. Jamaica is a world leader. I mean, they've. I mean, Jamaica, of course, we know they are. You go to Jamaica, you know what you're going for, and so they did the coolest thing ever. What they did was they didn't legalize recreational marijuana; they legalized medicinal. But it's so easy to be able to get either a prescription out there, not to mention they want to do it also partially for tourism. So what they did was, if you're a medical marijuana patient somewhere else in the world, you can bring your prescription when you come to Jamaica, and they will honor it, and you can buy Jamaican weed when you're there. If you don't have a prescription, when you show up at the border, you can essentially apply for a medical, it's like a medical, not like a leave, but, where they give you a permit, a pass. And essentially you're a medical patient, but you can still buy it.
Yeah. It's like if you get sick there, you go and see the doctor and he gives you a cream to take home back to your hotel for while you're there. The same thing applies.
Canada has really benefited from this too, because one of the reasons that we are the world leader in medical cannabis, and our licensed producers are becoming so big, is because we were the first, as you guys, I'm sure you know, we were the first to legalize medical marijuana in the world. And we have had a huge jump on the other countries by developing our producer system, and we're considered like the benchmark for cannabis. So when all these other countries were legalizing medical marijuana, whatever, none of them had supply. And so the companies like Canopy Growth and Tilray, some of the others, they realized that, and then as countries were legalizing, they jumped in and said, hey, you guys, it's going to take at least 6 months to a year to get your own domestic pot. So in the meantime, buy from us. And so in the end, like Canopy Growth is the largest marijuana producer in the world. They're in Smiths Falls, Ontario. And they essentially supply most of the world's marijuana for people who don't have it.
Yet, they're supplying it around the world, but yet the patients themselves here in their own country, are going without.
Well, that's the irony. Yes, absolutely. That people in Canada and my licensed producer as well. I'm not going to call them out, but they have. I used to be able to get 8 different strains from them, and just like Kim, we're down to 3. I called 1 week for a certain strain and I didn't get it, and then I called the week later and they were out. So, they're going to have to do some more growing pretty darn quick.
Yeah, and there's another huge issue with packaging as well. They're packaging stuff like 20-gram increment bottles only instead of 10. So you can't split a 20-gram bottle. But, somebody that wants 20 grams can easily order 2 10s. But you can't split the 20s. So somebody that only wants 10 grams can't get it.
Well, and who has that kind of money? Like, I'm, into buying a 20-gram bottle of marijuana. Like, I'm sorry, I'm not Rockefeller here. Like, I want to be able to buy my medicine in say like 5-gram bottles, because we're talking about the only drug that is taxed in Canada. Not to mention, we can only get it through the damn mail system or through a courier. It is an expensive venture to be a cannabis patient in this country. So to limit me and other patients to buying 10-gram bottles, 15, 20-gram bottles, it's just completely unfair to tell me that I have to now drop $200. I have to forego paying my phone bill, for example, just so I can get medicine I need to be able to sit and do my job. It's vastly unfair.
I recently talked to a local patient here in town, and he had dropped $1,000.
Yeah, $1,000
easily done.
Yeah, and that was part of the problem.
If you're treating this like a medicine,
didn't have them.
If you're treating this like a medicine, then make it like a medicine. You know, if I need, if I have the flu or if I have something that I need from Shoppers Drug Mart, I get a prescription, I go, it's covered under my insurance plan, or it's at an affordable price in most cases. But God forbid I should be able to buy a plant, a dried plant, and then suddenly I have to mortgage my house so I can afford it.
Yeah,
That's it.
Doesn't make sense.
No.
Now to go back to the world of cannabis, we're talking about the different countries. There's one country that we didn't touch on, and that's North Korea.
Yeah.
Did you touch on North Korea in the article that you talked about cannabis?
Yeah, I wrote about North Korea. It's been a long time since I wrote about them, but there's a lot of secrecy around, like everything else that they do. There's a lot of secrecy and confusion as to what exactly is legal and not. But according to sources, North Korea, you can grow cannabis anywhere there, and in fact, it's grown quite a bit, full crops of it. They do allow hemp. They allow certain things like that, and and as far as anyone knows, it's not outlawed there. Like no one would know the difference if you smoked it or if you consumed it. And then there are other people that say that they do crack down on it, but as far as we know, and the reason we know that it's actually pretty widely used there is there are businessmen and businessmen and women from China who go to North Korea on a regular basis and buy just pounds and pounds of weed and then bring it back to China and sell it on the black market for a ridiculous amount of money. And so, and apparently they say that they're just able to buy it from a farmer, like it's that simple. So,
wow. So commonplace.
Yeah, it's commonplace. I mean, I'm assuming that the average North Korean realizes that cannabis, what it's used for. I'm assuming that it's not just used for rope, and they know that. But apparently North Korea is totally fine with it. And also, on those terms, Iran actually, as far as everybody knows, Iran actually has incredibly loose marijuana laws. Arguably, if you live in one of these places, you need a hell of a lot of pot, I suppose.
I would say so.
If I lived in North Korea, I'd need to be high all the time.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Not about to move there.
No,
sure.
But it's interesting how some cultures, a lot of cultures don't have the stigma. I mean, it all comes back to this was basically, it all came out of the U.S., right?
Oh, yeah. I mean, the U.S. was a big perpetrator of this. I mean, I really, you have to applaud the people from Amsterdam. For a long time, they were the mecca of pot, as you guys know, for years. Yep. And as far as I'm concerned, they had the best way possible, which is it was still illegal, but they tolerated it, meaning that if people wanted to open up a coffee shop, you knew, like a quote-unquote coffee shop, you knew what you were getting, but they allowed the people that wanted to do it to go do it, and the people that didn't want to do it, they don't have to do it. And it's that simple. And I don't understand why it's so complicated here in Canada. It was as simple as saying, let's decriminalize and allow dispensaries and pot shops and whatever to open, and then the people that want to do it, congratulations. The people that don't. And that's it. But apparently we have to go through a huge song and dance just for people to allow to smoke a joint. So I just don't understand.
You, me, and the rest of the planet are very, very confused.
Yeah. Like if I want to go to Kim's house and smoke a joint, I should be able to do it without having any scrutiny over my head,
Absolutely. I'm on board with that.
Now, Jonathan, just to sort of touch on your end of things of what you do for the writing, when it comes to your topics, is this something that you pick out, or is this something that you see is big in the news that needs to be written about, or do you just basically cover news items?
That's a good question. It's a combination of three things. I pitch a lot of stuff, so I'm constantly scouring the web and different sources. I have people in Toronto who inform me of what's going on, in the underground scene and stuff like that. So, that's one thing that I do is I look for stories and I pitch them, and I got a fantastic editor at marijuana.com. His name is Jeff Hale, and I'd say 95% of the stories I pitch they go with, and then I also have stories that are assigned to me. So because I work for Weed Maps, they know stuff that I simply don't know, and they will come and say, hey, we just got news from this person that this is happening. Can you cover it as breaking news? So that's another way, is they'll assign me stuff. And then, just like you said, the third way is I will look up articles on the web, like that the Globe and Mail have written or the Toronto Star, and I will delve into them and I will report the facts as told by these papers. But then at the same time, I'll do separate interviews to, put our own spin on it. I'm writing one right now on the lack of women in the cannabis industry in Canada, how there aren't a lot of women at the top, and why that is, which was a big piece today in, I believe it was the Canadian Press, the Globe and Mail. And so I interviewed Lisa Campbell from the local community here, and she gave a great interview as to why that was, and that's going to be published tomorrow.
Oh, I'm very, very well aware of who Lisa is. Lisa actually came up to the north and visited with us on my very first protest that I held in Northern Ontario several years ago. A great friend to the show. She's been interviewed by us several times. We attend the Green Market and report from there on a regular basis. Lisa is a fantastic advocate for the cause.
Yeah, we did
that's
a live,
amazing. Yeah, I love Lisa. I'll see you at the next Green Market then. I go all the time.
Oh, really? Well, we broadcast live from there several times.
We did the recent one was the most recent one was the first anniversary.
That's right. You got the first anniversary. You mean on 420?
No, 420. I was down there for 420. Yeah. I broadcast live from the Green Market on 420, but Al did the first anniversary, which was just last month.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
But you guys were there in Queen's Park for the 420 one, then you're saying as well.
Yeah, 420 was at Yonge and Dundas Square. I was there for that, and they had a simultaneous Green Market going on in Kensington Market.
Right. Sorry, that's right. You're absolutely right. It was Kensington Market, and so you guys were at the or Steve was at the year anniversary. You're saying as well.
Yeah, Al was.
I did that. That was at 7-something Spadina.
Okay.
70 or something. Yeah, Bacon Nation. It was
right.
It was an empty store.
Yeah. No, I'll have to come see you guys at the next one. I had the Lisa and the Green Market was the reason I had such an incredible 420 this year. I was at Kensington Market location, and there were way more samples than there normally are for whatever reason. And so I was there to cover it, but I didn't realize how many samples I was eating. So I had the Chex Mix and the gummy bears and all these different things.
I feel for you. I know I was there doing the live broadcast and people were stuffing stuff in my face and they're going, try this. And I'm interviewing, what's in this? And I'm eating it while they're talking. Oh my God, what a day.
Oh my God. Yeah, it was. And then exactly. And then I went to Yonge Dundas Square because I was also working, I was at the Weed Maps booth there and also wanted to go visit them. And then after I did the Yonge Dundas Square, the 420 stuff kicked in, and I just literally walked the hallways of the Eaton Center for 2.5 hours. That's all I did. For 2.5 hours, I just walked up. I didn't buy anything. I don't remember talking to anyone. I just walked and walked and walked, and then finally it wore off, and I looked at my watch, and I was like, oh, crap, it's 4 o'clock, and I had to go home and pick up my kids. But for 2 hours, I was just like, if you asked me what happened that day, I wouldn't remember the afternoon that well.
Oh, that's hilarious. We must have crossed paths several times because I was reporting for our show as well. And I went from the Green Market to 420 Yonge and Dundas. And then I went back to the Hot Box Cafe after that.
Oh, there you go.
And the Green Market again. So I was there half the night. Yeah, I was reporting. I was at the skunk booth at the Young and Dundas.
Amazing. I will totally have to meet up with you when the next time you're in.
Absolutely.
We'll have to do that. Okay, John and Kim, we're at the end of the program.
Yeah.
So, yeah, usually I say we got a couple minutes left, but yeah, we're at the end of the program here. So, basically, John, I'm going to see if you've got a shout out to person, place, a thing, website, somebody you'd like to promote.
Yes, of course. I would love it if people would come and read my articles at marijuana.com. And they can also look me up on Twitter at John_Hiltz, Hiltz, John spelled Jon, so Jon_Hiltz. But you can, of course, go to marijuana.com for my daily pieces, and I hope you enjoy them.
Excellent.
Kim, you've always got somebody you like to throw a shout out to?
Yeah, this week I got one going out to Dana Larson, one of my all-time faves in the community. He's got another new book coming out. He's converted his Harry Pothead series into a comic book. Article number 1 is coming out July the 15th, Harry Pothead and the Marijuana Stone. Get your first issue on July 15th, available at potheadbooks.com.
Yeah, there you go. All right, just a reminder that I will be back next Wednesday with my joint host, Lisa Yashishin, and I can't remember who her guest is. I know she's got one. I just can't remember who it was off the top of my head. You can find Pace on Twitter at Pace Radio, and you can like us on Facebook, or you can check out our pictures on Instagram at Pace Radio Show. And we're also available on the web at pace-online.ca. And when you're there, write us a note. Tell me you want some free stuff, and we'll look at getting you some free educational information that you can share with others. Thank yous for also go out to our sponsors, friendly folks at BMA Hydroponics, who are located in Belleville, Ontario at bmahydroponics.com. CC Nexus, Canada's largest cannabis seed wholesaler. They're found at ccnexus.global. Always a big thank you to our producer, Al Rapp, the man behind the baggie. And a big thank you to you, Jonathan, for coming on to the program. We really appreciate you coming on and talking to us and our listeners. We really appreciate it.
Thank you. Anytime. You guys let me know. It's fine. I would love to come back.
And we're looking forward to trying to run into you at the Green Market as well.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I'll see you there.
And Kim, it's always been a pleasure, and thank you for everything you do. And
happy to be here.
And a big thank you to our listeners. We always appreciate listeners tuning in the program, and without our listeners, we wouldn't have one. So, thank you, and good night.
Good night.
So what are you doing? Nothing? Why not?
Trying to get on this Lifestyle Radio website.
Sounds like a cool website.
Yeah, it's alright. Oh, wait, I might have it.
You might